like to call the Red City Council meeting to order. If we can all please rise and join together in our Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Carter. Here. Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Hudford. Councilmember Cuthbert is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Rosales.
Here.
Mayor Kendrick.
Here. We have somebody in the room tonight that is very special to the city and to the residents and to lots and lots of people that try and make our community better, and that is Darlene Foy. We are going to be celebrating, her last day is Thursday. She's worked for the city for 32 years. She's been what some would describe as the face of the building and planning department. I don't think there's anybody that comes in that doesn't leave, or at least is not greeted with a smile and happiness. May not always get what they want, but she is the face of hope and cheer and friendliness and a lot of really positive things. So on behalf of all of us here, Darlene, thank you for 32 great years, and you will be sorely missed. Thank you. You can begin another 32 years if you want. Okay, we will go to consent calendar. I'm sorry, thank you. Announcements of upcoming community events. Is there anybody that has any community events that they... Okay, one of the things that I would like to encourage our community is our police department is, and this is the 4th year that I've known. I was at the Brackett Field Airport, and our police department was out there and selling hats and patches and many other things for Pink Patch October, which all the proceeds are going to go to fight cancer. So if they know that there's several officers in here, talk to them. They will point you in the direction of Holly Savage, who's in charge of this through our police department. Is the fire department doing something, Kevin?
I think the ones they had, they turned over to Holly from last year. We don't have t-shirts.
Okay, so the fire department is doing it.
We're doing t-shirts.
Okay, but you are doing something.
Yes.
Thank you. So if you want a t-shirt that's different from the police department, fire department, see Kevin or a firefighter, and they will provide you with the details on that. But all the money goes to fighting cancer, so thank you very much. Okay, we will move to item 5, which is the consent. Last meeting, we had an item that was requested to be brought back with some clarification. I'm going to ask our city manager to report on that. Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, to refresh everybody's memory, there were 2 checks that were put before council, one for $107,897, and it was asked what specifically that was for. That was for the purchase of computers that were mounted in the police department vehicles. There were 16 of those. The other check was $329, and it was in the amount of $119,000. And that was an expenditure that was issued on behalf of LA Impact. It was actually the city is the conduit for and processes their paycheck or their checks, and this check was for some ongoing law enforcement activity.
Thank you. Okay, we've had a request on 5A to be pulled. That's the city council minutes. So could I have a vote on the rest of the motion on the rest of the consent calendar items, please?
I'll move to approve the remainder of the consent calendar.
And I'll second that.
Vote, please. Thank you. Okay, Jim Murphy, item 5A, please.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, you know, I've served on 4 boards, but I've never, and I know how important these minutes are, but I've never sat here and changed something or asked for it to be changed. So bear with me as I walk through this. I'm not sure how the process works. What I'm referring to in your City Council minutes from Monday, September 16th, is on page 11. It states here that Mr. Kress was reported on an extension for the employment agreement with the city manager. He stated that, and I'm reading this from the minutes, he stated that the city council unanimously, following the annual evaluation of the city manager, instructed him to prepare an amendment extending that employment agreement with Mr. Russi, and that amendment would be presented before the council. So that was on, I believe, 9-3 according to your agenda. Then I flip forward to page 15. I think this is where the mistake is. It says here, it was moved by Councilmember Carter, seconded by Councilmember Rosales, and carried by a 4-1 vote. Councilmember Hepburn voted no to approve the second amendment to the employment agreement with the city manager. I believe that should be 5-0 if, what is, isn't unanimous mean everybody versus 0?
I was unanimously directed at the previous meeting to prepare that, and I did. And Councilmember Hepburn decided in the intervening 2 weeks that he did not support it. So he changed his vote. So it was it's correctly stated in the minutes, 4-1.
So on September 3rd, it was 5-0, and then less than 2 weeks later, it was 4-1? So that is correct?
That is correct.
So he worked with the city manager for 4 years and decided in those 2 weeks something was different.
Well,
I know.
I think you're
it's-
getting beyond the scope of the minutes.
All right, it's not fair with him not here, but is there a way to address that when he is here?
Well, you can always raise those kind of issues under public comment.
Okay, well, can he respond to that? Because first we had the city tax, and he flip-flopped on that, then we had
Okay,
the fire department
You're
survey.
getting beyond the approval of the minutes. which
Well, I'm
is
just curious.
what's before us right now.
But is there a chance to come back? I don't want to do this, I mean, it's not fair to him in his absence, but is there a chance to bring that back up?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So motion to approve the minutes.
Any other questions or anybody wants to respond on this item? Okay, we will like to have a motion to approve 5A, please.
I move to approve the minutes. Oh, sorry.
Vote.
Was that long enough?
Thank you. Doing better. Okay, we will move to item 6 under public hearings. There's appeal of case number 38-19 CUB. I think there's been a request by Hepburn, since he is not here, to delay this for until the next meeting. My question is the council okay with that?
What about the party that is here representing?
Well, I was just wondering if we were okay with it, but let's go ahead and ask Ray and his consultant.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Mike Castaneda, and thank you for the opportunity to get up here to discuss this.
The issue is whether we're postponing it or not. We're not having them defend it.
Yeah.
Right, no, I just was gonna
Yeah.
ask for the continuance.
Okay.
That's all I was gonna ask for.
Okay, so they're in favor of it, Hepburn's in favor of it. I'm fine with delaying a week,
Yeah, I'm fine with that too, if you want to wait 2 weeks, or is it?
or 2 weeks, right?
The next council meeting.
Yes, I think 4th of November.
We vote or?
Okay, is there anyone else who came for this hearing that wishes to be heard tonight? Then a motion to continue this public hearing to November 4th, your November 4th meeting at 6:30 PM in this room.
To approve the movement to November 4th.
I'll second that.
Vote, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to our city attorney for clarifying that. Okay, we will move to item 6B. I am moving my office, but I'm still paying rent, and so I have a conflict with item cell tower at Monero Square. So I will be leaving the room and turning the gavel over. Oh, you already have it, Charlie.
He's still passed.
To Mayor Pro Tem Rosales.
Your conflict, to be clear here, is due to the proximity of your former real estate business, not anything else.
Item before council this evening is amending the Old Town of Verne specific plan to allow wireless communications as a conditionally permitted use within the open space district. Resolution 1976 authorizing the execution of a land lease agreement with Los Angeles Limited Partnership. And we will hear from our planner. Please.
Good evening, council members. So I'm going to be doing a presentation on the proposal for the Verizon Wireless Tower, of explaining what the proposal is, as well as the process that's going to take to approve that proposal. Oh, sorry. So there are 4 applications that were submitted, and they're all being processed concurrently. 2 applications are precise plan review applications, which essentially deal with design and architecture. One is specific to the design and architecture of the proposed Verizon Wireless Tower. The other application is specific to the architecture and design of the proposed enhancements to Monero Square. A 3rd application is for a conditional use permit, which is going to condition the way that the proposed wireless communications facility would operate within Monero Square. And the 4th application would be for the specific plan amendment, which would allow for wireless communications uses as a conditionally permitted use within the open space district. So the entitlement process for these 4 applications it basically follows this flow chart. It starts with Development Review Committee and then goes to Planning Commission and then goes to City Council. So the 2 precise plan review applications related to the design of the tower and the redesign of Monero Square were reviewed at Development Review Committee meeting on September 3rd. The DRC approved those applications. They also made a recommendation to Planning Commission regarding the request for a conditional use permit and for the specific plan amendment. Planning Commission reviewed the conditional use permit application at their September 11th meeting, where they approved the CUP and then made a recommendation to City Council regarding the specific plan amendment. So tonight, City Council is reviewing the request for a specific plan amendment as well as the request to execute a land lease agreement. So this is all that City Council is reviewing tonight. I will provide information regarding the other applications because they are all pertinent to what's before you tonight, but again, all you're reviewing and approving is the specific plan amendment and the land lease agreement. So to start with the specific plan amendment, this is a map of the Old Town Laverne specific plan, which shows the various districts. And within the Old Town Laverne specific plan, wireless communication uses are conditionally permitted in all districts except for the medium residential district, which is the yellow area right here. And it's also prohibited within the open space district, which includes parks or plazas. So those two green squares that you see, the one on the bottom left is Monero Square, and the one at the top is Lordsburg Town Site or Transportation Plaza. So wireless communication uses are allowed everywhere except for those two districts. This is not consistent with the city's policy. The city council adopted a policy on wireless communications facilities which prohibits wireless communication uses in residential areas. So in that regard, the current specific plan is consistent with city policy. However, the city does allow for wireless communications facilities in other park facilities throughout the city. Today we have existing wireless communication facilities in Pelota Park as well as Laverne Sports Complex. So in that regard, the Old Town Laverne specific plan is not consistent with how we treat those uses throughout the city. So the specific plan amendment would basically rectify that issue by making it more consistent with how we treat wireless communication uses. So the City Council Resolution number 1975 would allow for that specific plan amendment to allow for those wireless communication uses as a conditionally permitted use. The Planning Commission did review it, and they have recommended that the City Council approve the specific plan amendment. The conditional use permit was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and they have approved it contingent upon City Council's approval of the specific plan amendment. But the conditional use permit would basically provide conditions for how that wireless communications facility would operate within Monero Square. So it will allow, first of all, the CUP allows for Verizon Wireless to construct the tower in Monero Square and also operate their wireless facilities there. The tower is proposed to be 4G. That's what they've indicated they intend on doing there, which isn't to say that at some point in the future it may or may not have 5G installed, but at the moment they are only intending to do 4G. The need for the tower at that site is critical. There's very poor coverage in the Old Town neighborhood. So adding this tower there will enhance immensely the wireless coverage that we have in that area. The Old Town Laverne Business Improvement District has been involved in this process, and they are supportive of the addition of a tower there. And the University of Laverne, a member of the Old Town Laverne Business Improvement District, has indicated their support for having this wireless facility there. They provided a letter which is up on the dais for your consideration, but it's impacted their operations, the lack of wireless coverage that's in the city in that location. So this map kind of shows the lack of coverage that we have. On the left, it shows what Verizon coverage is without the addition of the Monero Square site. And on the right, it shows what the coverage would be if the Monero Square site were to be added. So the Monero Square site is in the middle here. The yellow area, green areas show good coverage. The yellow areas show fair coverage, and the purplish, bluish color shows poor coverage. So as you can see, there's very poor coverage in the Old Town neighborhood. With the addition of the wireless facility in Monero Square, the coverage would be greatly enhanced. So the conditional use permit, it does have conditions of approval. Those include compliance with the Brackett Field Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan, which thereby requires compliance with FAA standards. It also requires that all equipment within the wireless communications facility be adequately screened. In addition to that, the Verizon Wireless is required to execute a land lease agreement. The actual tower will take up about an 18 by 18 foot space within Monero Square. So for their use of that area, they have to execute a land lease agreement with the city where they would be paying the city rent for the use of that property. Additionally, future co-locations, so if a different cellular carrier wanted to add their equipment to that site, that would require review and approval by the Community Development Department. And most likely it would require additional land area for their own separate equipment, in which case they would then have to execute a separate land lease agreement with the city. So again, the precise plan review deals specifically with the design, and this was approved by the Development Review Committee. I just want to give a brief overview of what the design is. It's proposed to be a 60-foot tall tower. It would be set back from the eastern property line along property line of Monero Square along D Street, approximately 32.5 feet. There would be an equipment enclosure. The equipment enclosure is an 18 by 18 foot area, and that's the footprint of all the equipment that would be used for the facility, as well as where the tower would be sited. Around that equipment enclosure would be an 8-foot block wall that's designed to match basically the aesthetics of another storage enclosure that's going to be located within Monero Square. Again, all wireless communications equipment will be screened, so it will not be visible to anyone who's walking through Monero Square or anywhere else in Old Town. Because of the Old Town Laverne Business Improvement District's their involvement with getting this off the ground and running, they will have their logo incorporated into the tower, and it'll be on 2 sides of it. And I also want to note that Verizon has made a significant investment in the architecture of this design. They've really tried to accommodate the city's request to make sure that whatever does get built matches and is compatible with the rest of the architecture within the area. So today, this is what Monero Square looks like today. It's an aerial view. The red square down here shows where approximately the Verizon wireless tower would be located. This shows kind of an updated plan of the redesign of Monero Square, and this shows where the Verizon wireless tower would be located within the redesigned layout of the square. These are some colored elevations that show the architecture of the tower. It's designed to match other architecture within the area. And again, no equipment is visible. All equipment is internal to the tower, so nothing will be seen. The tower was designed essentially to match the existing Wilson Library Tower at the University of Laverne. The Wilson Library Tower is 65 feet in height. The proposed tower is 60 feet in height, so they're comparable in size. And it's consistent with, again, the surrounding architecture of the area. It will be compliant with all FCC and FAA standards. So the land lease agreement is a requirement of the conditional use permit. The City Council needs to approve execution of that land lease agreement. Its initial lease term of 5 years with 4 automatic 5-year extensions. I do want to clarify, the staff report indicated that the annual rental fee was $48,000. It's actually $40,800. And there will be an annual rent increase of 2%, and all of that gets paid to the city. So staff is recommending that the City Council approve the specific plan amendment to allow for wireless communication uses as a conditionally permitted use within the Parks and Open Space District of the Old Town Laverne specific plan. And we're also recommending that the City Council approve the land lease agreement with Verizon for use of that space within Monero Square. And just briefly, I wanted to provide a little information about the actual Monero Square redesign project. So again, we processed all these applications together, but the Monero Square redesign was actually in the works long before Verizon came into the picture. In July 2017, the city issued an RFP to solicit proposals to redesign Monero Square, which hadn't seen any improvements since 1995. So we contracted with Segura Associates, a landscape architecture firm, and they provided a final design by 2018, at which point we were approached by Verizon about potentially siting a wireless facility in the square. And so at that point, we did have to redesign, make slight modifications to what had been designed by Segura and Associates to make room and accommodate for that wireless communication facility. But otherwise, no real changes have been made as a result of the Verizon wireless tower. So the redesign includes some park enhancements, including a new stage, and new seating areas, and a new storage enclosure for when we do have events such as holiday stroll or pool cruise, which Monero Square is very central to those community events. So this is Monero Square, the existing conditions, and this kind of shows the existing and the proposed. So on the left, this is what Monero Square currently looks like, and this is what it would be proposed to be. More or less everything is the same. The fountain stays, the concrete walkways stay. The pergola will be removed, and additional seating areas will be added, as well as more concrete areas to provide for those seating areas. But there will still be the same amount of trees. More landscaping will be added in the planting areas. So it's more or less the footprint will be the same. It's just slight enhancements to make it more accommodating to large crowds for community events. So regardless of what the outcome is for the Verizon wireless proposal, the city will still be moving forward with our redesign of Monero Square. And we'll be using park development funds as well as a contribution from the Old Town Laverne Business Improvement District to make this happen. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm available from staff to answer that, and the applicant is also here if you have any questions of him. Thank you.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Mike.
No, that was a very thorough report, and same with our staff report in our packet, so thank you for that.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and we have a card for Mr. Kelly.
I went to the Planning Commission and Hugh Kelly of Monterey. Essentially, I don't have a problem with it, except for I heard that more trees were going to be taken down than just 3 and, replaced with saplings. It's a beautiful area. And to pave it all over or something like that doesn't quite sound right. I mean, it's beautiful. And I think we should try to take care of that to make sure that you don't lose that area because it looks very good. My second comment would be 2% on the rent increase. Verizon is a large company and we're not going to live on 2% for the rest of lifetime. I think probably it should be tied maybe to Fed's fund rate or something like that, plus 2%. That would give us a little bit more income and be a little bit more fair to the city. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Is there anybody else who would like to address the council on this issue? Please state your name and address.
Good evening, council members, staff. My only concern, Tom Cahill, Hannah Walt Drive. My only concern is with the existing conditions that apply when it comes to the infrastructure around cell phone towers. There's traditionally a generator that's installed with these systems, and they go through a scheduled monthly test where they run for approximately 15 to 20 minutes once a week, once a month, depending on the schedule of the tower. I would just have it somewhere in the lease that monthly test period not interfere, the noise abatement not interfere with goings on within inside of Monero Square at that time. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion, David?
No, I'm in favor of this project.
Bob, could you just explain, or Maya, about the 2%? Why that, how that figure came about, the increase yearly?
We initially gave Verizon the Pelota Park AT&T agreement, and they've essentially matched the rent for that, which is a good rent for the city. They came back with 2% annual increase. It's not CPI limited to 2%, it's straight 2%. So could be more, but overall, I think that the deal points in this proposed lease agreement are within the industry standards and the kinds of agreements that cities are approving.
Let me ask this then. At the 5-year renewal, are we able then to adjust that 2%, perhaps something higher?
You are not. You are buying in for all of the potential extensions of this, and that's, again, a standard with this kind of investment in infrastructure. I believe the Pelota Park extension of that existing cellular antenna, I believe that was 5-year terms.
So we're locked into that.
Yes. Yes, and one thing that is, at least to all of the lease agreements for cell towers that I've looked at over my career, this includes a small $3,400 signing bonus. And I've never actually seen that appear in one of these. So.
And they're gonna pay for the signage of Old Town.
Yes, and you know, the whole, as Maya explained, Verizon has put a lot of money into the specific architecture here to make this compatible. And, you know, those kinds of issues enter into the whole economics of the deal.
So in the event Verizon wants to go from 4G to 5G, do we have an opportunity at that point, if they change their equipment?
Again, the answer is no.
I don't like no.
Well, I gotta give you the straight answer. If they go to 5G, that will be a matter of federal law and federal direction. They'll still be using the space that the city has leased to them. They'll just have slightly different equipment. For
Would that
example,
would that slightly different equipment take up more room?
no, it won't. In the Pelota Park, just to continue that comparison, that one down at the Little League Park, that was one of the very first antennas. And that was built as an analog antenna, and it's since been upgraded to digital several times, but with the same pole structure.
Okay, so would like to make a motion.
I'll make the motion, is that we approve the recommendation from the DRC and the Planning Commission to move forward with this project.
So a second?
Basically approve the two resolutions.
The two resolutions.
1975 and 1976.
I move that we approve 1975 and 1970, I second that we approve 1975 and 1976.
Please vote. You can bring the other guy, yeah?
Get back to that.
Thank you.
We came back on. One too many clicks. Great job.
Okay, we'll move to item 7, public comment. Items not in the agenda that people want to talk about. If you would like to come to the podium, you'll fill out a blue card either before or after and give it to our city clerk. Just a reminder that council cannot respond, but staff can if there's a possibility of providing information. So public comment is now.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I am here today because I wanted to ask if, since we're getting cell towers and we know it will be upgraded to 5G, and eventually we'll start getting small cell towers everywhere, and it's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen because it is an FCC regulation. But I want to know, since we don't have a wireless ordinance in our city, I think it's really important to do that so you guys can keep local control. You could set regulations and they can, when they come to propose for the small cell, at least there's those rules and they can't. So what I'm trying to say is here are a few key points that we can add to the local ordinances. For example, an FCC clause voiding the agreement or requiring to modification in the event of a regulatory change or to maintain all wireless facilities, both small cells and cell towers, require conditional use permits. Also, significant gap in coverage, maintaining requirements for significant gap in coverage to be identified for approval for both small cells and cell towers. Least intrusive method, maintain requirements to fill the gap for both small cells and cell towers. 1,500-foot setback from other small cell tower installations. Radio frequency data report requirements. Preferred or disfavored locations. Prohibited zones for small cells, like residential zones and multi-family zoning districts. We could require a mock-up to adequately consider the same potential impacts. Public notification of all property to all property owners within 500 feet. American Disabilities Act compliance, authorization for property owners, community meetings. The applicant would require to hold a community meeting to at least 2 weeks to let the community know. Random testings for the RF compliances, and the 1,500-foot setback from other small cells and 1,000-foot setback from residences. Aesthetic and underground and aesthetic requirements. Just stuff, need to make an ordinance so that they can go based on that and just not come to you guys and say, oh, we want it here. And since there are no rules or regulations or ordinances, then you can't really tell them to move it somewhere else. But if we have this ordinance put in place, I'm sorry, I'm just a little not feeling well today. So I'm just asking if we could please get a wireless ordinance in our city, since we know that cell towers and small cell towers are going to be starting to get implemented. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
soon. Anybody else that would like to address the council in public comment? Okay, we'll move on to council comments, conferences, meetings. Charlie, you want to start?
I went to a pretty interesting meeting today with the council group that I belong to, Talk to Advance Local Knowledge. It's a group of council members in the foothill communities from Sierra Madre to Claremont. And we get together and talk about issues that are of importance to us. And one of the issues we talked about was voting machines and the consolidated voting that's going to take place in March. And the city is well prepared to meet that challenge. But I want people to understand that the machines that you're going to be using, if you decide to go to a polling place, once you see how it operates, it's not that difficult. It's going to take some getting used to. The other issue, and our staff is working on this now, was legislation AB 68. And I try to keep people aware of what Sacramento is doing again. But basically what AB 68 is trying to fix the homeless situation by changing the planning of single-family residences to allow for 2 additional residents on that property. And we're working, staff is working diligently to find out what those requirements are and what we can do to maintain the local control that we have over that kind of building. Right now, I can't really give you an informed answer what we're going to be doing to prevent this from happening, but it's something for you to consider when you go to the polls and vote for a supermajority again in this state, or a governor that doesn't know how to use a brain.
Thank you. Robin, you want to go next?
Oh, sure. This past Friday, I and council members, we attended the University of Laverne, opened up what we all know as the old President's Dining Room, Davenport Dining Hall on the corner of, is that C and 3rd Street. And now it is the Randall Lewis Wellbeing Center. And that is a center that is for total well-being. When you go through, and they did say that if you want to come to the front desk, it's right in the lobby. They will take you on a tour. And it is absolutely beautiful what they offer these students. And it's one, as you know, as anyone drives down there, you can see all the construction going on, and it's just amazing. And the center will help these students from, well eating to exercise to mental health. And, it's just going to be great. It's a great addition. And our mayor, Don Kendrick, spoke beautifully and talked a little bit of the history about the Lewis family, which I thought was very impressive. And the other item I wanted to talk about, Colleen, I see you back there, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's very important that everyone knows, and if you're free that day, Saturday, November 2nd, is our safety fair. The police and fire is putting on a wonderful safety fair. We're going to have a council corner there where we'll be there to answer questions, talk to you about anything that you'd like to ask. And it's a great event. I've been there for many years. It's fun to walk around. They have vendors out there. You can get information. And the fire department, still doing the pancake breakfast. I'll be there helping you serve. I already talked to Andy. So come on out, join us.
Thank you, Robin. Here.
So, I'm sorry, things are a little foggy for me right now. I don't know, not everybody knows, but my mother passed away September 30th. So since then, it's a whole different world. But be that as it may, last week, I think it was it last week? The California Joint Power Insurance Agency held their annual risk management seminar or conference where they had many seminars. I attended along with Councilmember Rosales and some staff members here. They had a lot of good seminars on most recent case law, dealing with homelessness, wildfire concerns and what's going on there. And also they had one on council or elected officials and social media. So there's a lot of really good information there for all of us on the dais and staff here. So just know that your city and your elected officials are continuing to try to climb that learning curve. So that was a big deal. Let's see, I think that's it for tonight.
Thank you, Muir. Muir's mother was a mainstay in this city, brought a lot of greatness to our city for decades and decades. So we will be adjourning the meeting our next meeting, the beginning of November, in honor of Muir's mother. Weekend was extremely busy. Besides the Randall Lewis Wellness Center celebration and opening, Bragg Airport held an open house and a car show. I don't know, there must have been 100 to 150 really cool cars there that any one of you'd love to have. But something that I learned that day was our police chief is a pilot. And Nick flew in an antique plane from Brackett Airport, for cable to Brackett. Then he manned the pink patch and so forth to raise money for cancer. And then at the end of the show, got in the plane and took it back to cable. So that was a fun day. Also on Saturday was the pumpkin patch at Heritage Park, which plus they had a lot of different vendors, a lot of homemade stuff that was pretty cool. There was a gal, a girl that was probably 10 as part of a Girl Scout troop that is raising money, that every penny that is raised goes to foster dog care. So it was really special to see this Girl Scout troop, and they are Verne residents, learn about helping other people and animals. So that was great to see. Also yesterday, I participated in a cemetery tour. And Councilmember Robbins said, what'd you say?
I said I couldn't do it. It just sounded creepy.
Creepy, that was the creepy. And of course, we held it right before Halloween, so it wasn't creepy because it was in the middle of the day, but it was a lot of fun. My great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, lots of aunt and uncles are right there as you come in around the circle on the right-hand side. There's lots, our family has lots of grave sites there. But there was a number of them that were, Grace Miller is buried in our cemetery, and Grace Miller School is named after her for all the things that she did. And the Price House, the Price family, Blickenstaff family, we're talking about, there was 4 or 5 different sites. 4, 5, maybe 6. Our city attorney was there to, I only got to hear one, and that was the one that my wife and I spoke at. I was L.H. Bixby, and she was Margaret Bixby, who named our city. So it was a lot of fun. There was over 70 people there, and they're talking about doing it again. So I hope they pick somebody else next time. So, it was, I have, gave me this note? Charlie, sorry.
I just want to give a shout out to the Chamber of Commerce. We had the Taste of Verne, and really remarkable food that was served, and everybody had a great time. I even got to see people line dance. I don't get out much, so.
It's a new phenomenon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, for that. Okay, we will be adjourning the meeting. Our next one is being November 4th. It's at 6:30 in the evening in these chambers. Thank you for coming. Appreciate your participation.
Same memory card, same.